What's up guys, my name is Liam, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new WLMOUSE VUK. Now I'm not sure if that's really how you pronounce the name, but that's what I'm going to call it because I don't want YouTube to flag my video for inappropriate language. However, this is one of the most interesting and unique gaming mice that I've ever gotten my hands on. Has two sensors, a very unique shape, and on top of that, this is a very lightweight. So in this video, I'll be breaking down how my experience has been using this so far, comparing it to a lot of the competition out there, and hopefully by the end of this video, I'll be able to help you decide whether or not this could possibly be the perfect gaming mouse for you. So let's check it out. Before we get started today, I did want to let you know this was sent out to me. However, everything you'll be hearing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. So I'm not going to go too deep into the unboxing because typical fashion with WLMOUSE mice, this comes with tons of things, carrying case, two cables, USB-C to USB type A, modeling clay. It comes with arm sleeves. The one thing I do want to show you guys though, however, is it does come with a variety of grips, as just about all of their mice do. And another thing that's pretty cool I want to show you here, it does come with a variety of different types of skates here. Now these are the white PTFE skates. I really wish that WLMOUSE would start using some different style skates like some virgin PTFE, but it does have these bigger skates here as well. The reason there's a hole in the front is because that's where the second sensor is. And as you can see, there's another type of a style right there. But aside from that, typical types of things, you get a storage bag. Here's a look of the wireless receiver that it does come with, similar to their previous mice I've reviewed on my channel. All right, so here we got the mouse itself, and starting over here on the bottom, I just absolutely love the design that WLMOUSE does on all their mice, where they do use the PCB to reinforce the shell integrity here on the outside. As you can see here, the base is flat, so you can fit any type of skate design that you want to down here on the bottom. It does come with these dot skates. The one thing that I will say is directly out of the box, these two skates back here were just not cutting it for me. I found myself putting a lot of weight on the back of the mouse, considering the fact how long this mouse is, and we'll jump into that here shortly. So I'm going to be modifying the skates back here, or putting more dot skates on here in general. For these sensors, two sensors, you have one sensor right here, and the other sensor is all the way up here in the very front of the mouse. Aside from that, you do have your on and off button right here. And I guess I'll go ahead and talk about the sensors here since we're on the bottom of the mouse. I'll show you in the software, you can toggle either sensor 1 up here or sensor 2 down here. The one thing that I do want to say about the WLMOUSE mice in general, all their mice lately have been coming with a very far forward placed sensor. So to be completely honest with you guys, as I've been using this one, I don't know if this mouse is just ahead of its time or I'm just a rookie and I don't know what I'm doing, but this forward sensor was just honestly unusable for me. It was just kind of very tricky with how I game. When you're moving the mouse like this back and forth, you don't really notice a difference between the two sensors, obviously, but when you start to really rotate your mouse like that with your shots, it was just really hard for me to hit my shots, click on desktop icons and stuff like that. Perhaps if I were to put a lot of time into it and invest in getting used to it, I would be able to do so. But again, the one thing, even this sensor down here is still a pretty far forward placed sensor. So just right off the bat, even though I think it's a really awesome and cool, unique idea, it being very practical, not so much for me. I would have rather have had them have a lower placed sensor, and like maybe this one right here, as opposed to this one all the way far in the front. But again, maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about, and maybe one day I'll find out that this was the answer all along. Back over at the top, the shell integrity on this, for as lightweight as this is, has been very impressive. The sidewalls, they do feel very sturdy and firm. I mean, if you were to push really hard with the pointiness of your fingers here in the middle, you can feel a little bit of flex. And as far as the top goes, I've seen people pressing on the top. When you're not just going around pressing on the top as hard as you can and just holding this normally, I don't notice any type of bending or flexing. So it doesn't feel like a major point of weakness. However, just know if you're going to come in here and press all over this, you might actually crack the shell if you do it really hard. But just gripping it normally while gaming on it, even squeezing it really hard, this thing does feel really solid for me. As you can clearly see, this does have this golf ball style texture on here. And I just want to be very clear with you guys. While I don't hate or despise this golf ball texture, not necessarily what I would prefer. And the reason I say that is because as I was testing this out, the one thing I wanted to make sure that I realized, they've done this on their other mice before, but it's been smaller types of mice. This one being a bigger mouse, it fills up your hand a lot more. So I almost feel like you would have noticed it a bit more being there. But I will say that as I've been gaming on this mouse, I kind of just forget about it over time. You know, if you're to occasionally rub your fingers across or something like that, you are reminded of it, but it's not like so bothersome to where it made the mouse unusable for me. So I've honestly been really enjoying this shape and using this mouse in game. And again, once you really do get locked in, you almost just kind of forget that it's there. However, with that being said, I still would prefer a smoother feeling with some type of a coating on here, as this mouse is not coated. I've seen G-Wolves talk with people about this several times, and they're really committed to just this idea in general. I guess that this texture or whatever is able to give them or put these mice at a much lighter weight. I still think it'd be cool if they put out a variant just to kind of see how it did with cells and stuff like that. Even if it did add some additional weight, having a smoother feeling with the coating on top of it, but that is also why they do provide the grips that it comes with. For mouse 1 and 2 though, the clicks, they do feel really good on this. As you can see, this has that extremely low front end to it. And when I grip this mouse normally, I kind of click from this area. You don't notice like any like real major pre-travel or even post-travel. So just a click implementation on this, clicking it normally does really feel fantastic for me. If you're somebody who can reach all the way up to the front, not something that I can do at all, you do start to notice a bit more play there, and the clicks are going to feel a little bit more mushy. But even coming and clicking back here from the top like this, you still get a really decent feeling click with not hardly any noticeable pre or even post travel. Tolerances still feel good, and it actually does still feel pretty lightweight. You do get the optimal experience clicking in the middle, I feel like, but not a whole lot of difference if you were to click further back on here. And I do feel like that is a little more important to bring up because this is a longer style of a mouse. So I could definitely see that being an issue for people with smaller hands. But as far as the left to right goes, as you can see there, if I were like to push down here, it looks like there's a little teetering going on, but honestly nothing at all that you notice as you're using in game. At least for me, these switches feel really solid as I was tracking back and forth. For the scroll wheel, this is a typical G-Wolves scroll wheel experience. If you've never tried a G-Wolves scroll wheel, it does have a quieter sound to it. You do notice, I'd say lightly to medium notchiness on the steps there. Tensioning on it's pretty good though. And the center scroll will click on it. Easy to spam, just a tad bit on, a little bit on the stiff end, but nothing that's too stiff at all. And then finally, when it comes to the side buttons, I feel like the placement of the side buttons for the shape and size of this mouse are really good. I've been enjoying them, and truly these side buttons, they feel fantastic. You get like no playback here in the rear. So hardly any pre-travel. The post-travel after you click in, there's a little bit, but you do hit a nice solid wall back here. You don't notice it pushing too aggressively into the shell. So it does have a little bit of noticeable post-travel here. The one thing I do want to say about these side buttons is they're pretty clicky feeling. So not the lightest feeling side buttons, but honestly they felt pretty good for me to use in game. Let's go ahead and drop the click quality sound test. When it comes to the weight and balance on this, everything about the weight and balance for me has felt fantastic. No real major issues or complaints there. The one thing I did forget to mention to you guys, this does have a smaller battery in it, obviously, so something that I found myself having to charge daily since I do use higher pulling rates, but they do have the charge port over here on the right hand side of the mouse. This is nothing that I've noticed or has distracted me or bothered me with my grip at all as I've been using this mouse, just with the shape and length of it. I will admit though, it is a little bit annoying, this thing falling out. I can see people potentially losing that if they were to take it out and remove it. So since the button height is so low, it doesn't have the USB charging port up here. That's why they did actually move it back there. But anyways, enough with the rambling. Go ahead and drop it on the scale with the dot skates it comes with out of the box. Looks like we got it coming in at approximately 36.3 grams. Here's a look of the web-based driver. The one thing that's cool about this is all the settings are pretty much here on this front page. If you wanted to come up here and hit this arrow, you can do so to unlock all these settings, but pretty standard stuff from before. Down here in the middle is where you can adjust your DPI. Right above that is where you can select the sensors. So again, if you hit sensor 1, this is going to do that sensor all the way to the front, and then sensor 2 is the more middle placed sensor. They also do have a competitive mode now with this. Over here on the right hand side, the one thing about these switches is these do have SPD functionality similar to endgame gear, where when the node leaves the top, it will activate the switch, so it will give you a little bit of quicker click latency. It does give you some additional options over here for the click to bounce setting. I've only been dropping the before press and the before release options, so these settings have been working out fantastic for me. This is what I've been using as I've been testing out this mouse. When it does come to the performance, you're still going to be getting the same fantastic performance you get as all the other GWOLMOUSE mice out there. Now, I had to do the latency testing with the SPD functionality off because it will not register when it's turned on. It doesn't give me any types of results. So even with it turned off, you're still going to be getting some of the lowest click latency out there. But everything about the performance on this mouse has been feeling top tier for me. All right, so now let's talk about the shape. And like I mentioned earlier, this shape is actually pretty unique compared to anything else out there. And as a matter of fact, I was just kind of going back and forth and all over the place when I was trying to decide on what types of mice that I should compare this to. But I'm just going to break it down for you guys really simply here. The length of this mouse does feel like a larger mouse. So something similar to a G Pro Superlight, how it kind of has that longer feeling with the slower taper down to the rear, or even something like a WLMOUSE Beast X Max, for example, as far as the length on that goes, or the final mouse, I believe it's called the Classic or something like that, the largest version, just as far as the length goes. However, when it does come to the width, as you can see, this does have some pretty aggressive curves on it, and GWOLMOUSE, they definitely like to use curves on just about all their mice. But in the front of this mouse with the curve profile, it almost feels like a smaller or more medium style of a mouse, and then it does kind of have this more aggressive flare back here. That does give it a little bit of a wider feeling. And then the curve profile from front to back on this definitely does give you a much flatter feeling on the top. Though I'm somebody who generally plays with smaller mice, I was able to game with this mouse very comfortably, and I truly do like the shape of this a lot. The one thing that you will notice about this mouse is the length of it though. It definitely fills up your hands, and other mice that might feel similar as far as the size in the front goes, you'll be able to pull back or move around within your hand a little bit more if you're doing some type of a fingertip or a claw grip to where you do something like that, whereas this one is going to more lock in to the back of your palm as you're using it. So with that being said, let me go ahead and bring out just a bunch of different varieties of mice to kind of give you an idea on what I'm talking about. One of the mice that I've been using the most recently is the Lamzu Tachi. Even though this mouse came out in the beginning of the year, I wasn't able to get my hands on one just until not that long ago. But the reason I wanted to bring this mouse out is to show you, if you look at the front profile on these mice, when I put them together like this, the overall width of them, they really don't feel that far apart from one another. The one major difference that you do notice between these two mice, again, is the length over here on the GWOLMOUSE mouse. I'll go and show you the top curve profile on these from the top mid down to the sides, and just the height of these, really not a whole lot of different either. Again, as I was explaining to you, when I do grip the Tachi, I'm able to move this around a lot more as you don't notice the length, where this one you definitely do notice the length as you're holding. So let's go ahead, we'll drop the shape comparison between both of these. All right, next up here we got the Logitech G Pro Superlight. One clear difference between both of these is you do get that much flatter feeling over here on the GPX. So the front of the GPX I feel like feels a little bit more wide than the VUK, whereas you can see over here on the rear, this flares out and it does feel wider in the back, where the GPX does feel flatter, much flatter over here in the back. Here's a look of the top curve profile going down to the sides. But again, just with the length of the VUK, you can kind of see here just how the GPX has that slower taper down to the rear. Somewhat of a similar feeling, even though this does have much more height up here at the front, where this one, you do notice it does feel flatter. All right, then finally I'll go ahead and compare it to the Beast X Max. I would say that all around that the length of these and the flat that these have a flatter style feeling of a hump is what makes them feel pretty similar. However, aside from that, the difference is that the Beast X Max does feel flatter, and it makes it just feel wider, chunkier, and bulkier in the hands as you're holding it. Here's the top curve profile from the top going down the side. So you can see you're holding this even up at the top here. It just feels bulkier, chunkier, like a just larger, wider mouse. But when you are holding these in the hands with the way that the length on these feel from front to back, the size of them, not that far apart in that regard. So let's go ahead and drop a shape test comparison between both of these. Alright guys, so that wraps things up on the GWolves VUK, and truthfully, I've really been liking this mouse a lot. The shape of it is great, the performance on it is fantastic. The one thing I would say about it is, since I go back and forth testing a bunch of different mice, I'm not sure if this is going to apply to all of you guys out there. Maybe you can let me know down in the comments. If this was the only mouse that I used, maybe I can get a little used to the sensor positioning. But when you're comparing it to some of the top esports mice out there, like the G Pro X Superlight, Razer Viper V3 Pro, the Maya X, stuff like that, I do kind of wish the GWolves would make a version which is more of a mid-place sensor. And since they're doing this dual sensor thing, like I've already mentioned, maybe also add the higher sensor in there as well, because the higher sensor for me, every time I get it, I'm always kind of like have a mixed bag with how my feeling is on higher sensor. And back in the day, I feel like I really used to like them a lot, but now that I've got a chance to test out so many different mice out there, I feel like sometimes I'll use it and I'll just feel like, man, this feels great, this is amazing, this is it. And then other days I just really have hard times tracking my shot. So again, just kind of a little bit bipolar with these forward, more front-facing sensors. But aside from that, everything about this mouse really does feel great. Again, would also be cool to see if they did make a mouse a little bit heavier with a smoother texture on it and a coating, to also see how that went. But other than that, when I first started my channel, my most used mouse at the time was the GWolves HTX. I've always been a huge GWolves fan. I love everything that they make. Definitely somebody out there that's doing something very different and unique from anybody else, trying to set themselves apart. And again, just every time I get a mouse from them, I'm always just such a joy and a blast to use. But just know that there are some things about this that are definitely going to be a bit more different or unique from other types of standard gaming mice out there. But it is truly impressive they were able to make a mouse this big, coming in at such a low weight. But aside from that, if you guys do have any additional questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know in the comments down below. If you have enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.